Lawyers spend countless hours every week manually sending updates to their clients. That's why I built this system that does this automatically for them. All they have to do is type in the update they have for that specific client, then enter his name and finally select whether they want to send it as an email or SMS message. Then the app takes care of the rest. It automatically searches and finds the client's contact information from inside their CRM, writes a personalized message using AI, and sends it over to them instantly, saving lawyers hours every month that they would otherwise spend manually sending updates. And in this video, I will show you exactly how you can build this app step by step by using only Lovable N8N. So let's get started. Now the first thing that we have to do is to build the front-end interface of our app, and we're going to do that by using an app like Lovable, which allows us to build very nice looking UIs just by typing simple prompts in this simple text interface. So to build our specific app, I will simply come over here and type, I want to build a lawyer communication app. The lawyer will be able to input the update he wants to send to his client, the name of that client, and also he will be able to select whether he wants to send an email or an SMS message. Then the app is going to go and send over that message. But then I specifically tell Lovable to don't try to build any of the backend functions because I will build all of them with N8N. And the reason I'm doing that is because Lovable is simply unable to build such complex backend functions. That's why we have to use an app like N8N, which you will see in a little bit. And after that, I simply tell it, you just focus on building a nice looking UI. It needs to be modern with nice sharp colors, just like this example. And now what I will do is I will go over to Google and search for nice looking UI, simply find one that I like. Let's say I really like this one, for example, and then all I have to do is to simply come over here and download it, and then I can come back over to Lovable, simply come over here, click on attach file, upload the design I just downloaded, and then all I have to do is to come over here and click on enter. And now Lovable is going to go and build the front-end interface of our app. And since we gave it a visual example over here, it is way more likely to give us a good end result. That's why you should honestly always give it a visual example of exactly how you want your app to look like. But while Lovable is building the front-end interface of our app, let's go over to N8N and start building the backend. Alright, so I went over to N8N, and the first thing that we need to do is to add in a trigger in our workflow. And how we're going to be able to do that is by coming over here and clicking on add first step, and then we're going to come over here and search for a webhook node. And the reason we're using a webhook and not any other trigger, guys, is because a webhook will allow us to connect the front-end interface we are currently building with Lovable with the backend automation we're going to build over in N8N. And the only thing we need to change from all of these settings is we need to come over here in the HTTP method and change it from get over to post, since we want to send a post request, since that is how we're going to be able to communicate with our Lovable interface and send data back and forth. So now all we have to do is to simply come over here and click on top of this link in order for us to copy it in our clipboard, and then we can come back over to Lovable, and as you can see, it also finished creating our app's interface for us. Now we can obviously visually improve this as much as we want, but it's always best practice to first get the functionalities of the app nailed down, and then we can worry about improving the UI. So let's go and do that. That's why we will first come over here and try to connect the webhook link we just copied. And we're going to do that by coming over here and telling Lovable, make sure you send all the data over to this webhook URL. And now what I will do is I will simply come over here and paste in the webhook URL I just copied. And then I will simply come over here and click on enter. So now Lovable is going to go and embed this webhook inside that app. And boom, Lovable just finished making the changes, so it's time we actually go and test them out. So to do that, we first need to fill in our client's name. So let's say, for example, this lawyer has a Google Sheet which includes all of his client's details. As you can see over here, it has their name, their phone number, their email address, the street address. Obviously the lawyer can be using a different CRM, but for the purpose of this example, I will show you how to do it with Google Sheets. So let's say, for example, we want to send a message over to David Chen, giving him an update about his case. All we would have to do is come over here to where it says client name, simply type in his name, which is David Chen. Then over here in the update message, we need to give a description of the update. For example, let's say we will have to go on trial on the 15th of the month, and then all he has to do is to select whether he wants to send him an email or an SMS message. And how he can do that is by coming over here and clicking on this option. Right now we're sending him an SMS message, and if we enable this, we're sending him an email. Again, we can improve the way this visual looks, but what we're trying to do right now is test out and see if we're able to send this data back over to N8N. So now before I come over here and click on send message, I have to come back over to N8N and make sure I click on listen for test event. So my webhook expects to receive data, and that is why we're using the test URL. When we switch over to the production URL and we come over here and we turn our workflow live, then we will not have to manually come over here and click on listen for test event. But since it's always best practice to use the test URL when you're first building your automations, we're going to do it this way. So now I can simply come back over to Lovable and come over here and click on send message. And boom, as you can see, the message was sent successfully. And if I come back over to N8N, we can see that we do in fact have an output over here, which means that we successfully managed to connect a front-end interface that we built in Lovable with the backend automation we're going to build in N8N. And if I actually scroll all the way down here, we can see the exact things that I inputted. We can see the client's name, the message, and also the communication method. So now what I will do is I will simply come over here and pin this data, so do not have to rerun this if something goes wrong. And the next thing that we need to do is I will simply come over here and I will add in an OpenAI node, and then I will come over here and select message model. But we're not going to use this node in order for us to craft the message. We're actually going to use this to transform the text of the client's name, because maybe the lawyer made a mistake, maybe he misspelled it a little bit, or maybe he didn't capitalize the starting letters exactly as I did over here. As you can see, his last name is not capitalized. If we don't have it that way, it will give us a problem later on. So that's why we need to change this. So to do that, I will simply come over here, I will select an LLM model. Obviously you can select any LLM model that you want. I will select GPT-4, then I will come over here and I will select my OpenAI credentials. If you do not have credentials, what you have to do is click on create new credentials, and then you need to go to platform.openai/API keys. I will leave a link for it in the description below, and then simply come over here, click on create new secret key, then give a name to your key. I will call it key for this example, and then I will simply come over here and click on create secret key, and boom, this is your brand new API key. So all you have to do is to simply come over here and click on copy, and then come back over to N8N and simply paste it in over here and click on save, and boom, as you can see, our credentials were successfully created. So now you will be able to come and select them from over here. And now what we need to do is to come over here and fill in the prompt, which is basically us telling the LLM model exactly what we want it to do. So I will simply come over here, I will turn this into an expression, and I will type, here is a name, and what I will do is I will take in the schema that includes the name of that person, and I will drag and drop it over here. So our LLM model has access to that, and then I say make the first letters of the name and last name capital, and then I just tell it output only that and nothing else, because if you don't tell it that, it's going to say something like here's the name you wanted and then give you the name, which is something that we don't want. We just want it to output the name with the first letters capitalized. So now if I actually come over here and execute the step, you will see that this does give us the output that we wanted. Over here we have the name David Chen with 2 capital letters in the first name and then in the last name. So the next step that we have to do is to simply retrieve information for this specific person that we have inside our Google Sheet. So to do that, I will come over here and I will click on the plus icon and I will search for Google Sheets, and then I will make sure I come over here and select get rows in sheet, since that's what we actually want to do. We want to retrieve rows from inside a Google Sheet. Now the first thing that you have to do is to come over here and select your Google Sheets credentials. If you do not have credentials, simply click over here and sign in with Google, and then you will be able to see your credentials. Then in operation, make sure you leave this on get rows, and then over here in the document list, we need to select the Google Sheet that we want to retrieve information from. And since this supposed Google Sheet over here is called law firm clients, I will come over here and select law firm clients. Then over here in the seed number, simply select the Google Sheet number you want. I will select seed number 1. And then over here in the filters, what you need to do is to come over here, click on add filter. Then you need to come over here and select full name. And then over here in the value, simply taking the name of that specific person the LLM model output does, and simply drag and drop it over here. What this is going to do is it's basically going to retrieve information only for this specific person, which in our case is David Chen. So now if I come and execute this step, you will see that this retrieved only one item with basically all the information of David Chen. We can see his phone number, his email address, his street address, etc, etc. Obviously guys, this is fake information. This information is made up. I'm not trying to dox anyone, just so you guys know. And now what we need to do is to move on with the rest of our automation. But this is the point where we need to decide whether we want to send an email to that person, basically telling him about the update of his case, or whether we want to send him an SMS message. So in order for us to be able to pick the correct one, what we have to do is to come over here, click on the plus icon, and we're going to have to come over here and search for an if node. What an if node does is it basically allows us to check for this function. Now what we have to do is to simply come over here and open up a webhook to where we have the contact method that we want to communicate with this client, which is inside the schema over here, and simply we need to take it and drag and drop it over here in value 1. Then we're going to say if this is equal to as a string, because as you can see this is actually a string over here, and then what we need to do is to simply input the value email exactly as it is typed over here. So we'll come over here, paste in this value, and then I will say if this is equal to an email, and I come over here and execute the step, then I'm going to get exactly this. So we're going to say if this is equal to an email, and we come over here and we execute the step, this is going to be true, which means that the client selected that he wants to send an email to that specific person. So now all we have to do is to go and build the email branch of our automation. Now the first thing that we need to do is to come over here and add in an LLM chain. And the reason I'm adding an LLM chain and not a simple LLM is because I want to use an output parser, and you will see why in a bit. But for now, the first thing that we need to configure is we need to come over here and change this from connect to chat trigger node to define below. And then over here in the user message, we need to explain exactly what we want our AI model to do. So let me actually turn this into an expression and open this up so you can take a better look at it. And I will come over here and say, take in this message. And what I will do is I will come over here, open up my webhook and scroll all the way down to where we have the update that the lawyer inputted inside the app. And I will simply drag and drop it over here so our LLM has access to that, and then I say and turn it into a standard email message. Make sure it looks like it was written by a human in a business friendly tone and is formatted as a typical email message would be. Then I say this is the name of the person, and what I will do is I will take in the name of the person and drag and drop it over here, and then I say mention only the first name, since usually when you're sending emails you only mention the person's first name and not the full name, and we're doing that just to make it seem like our email was written by human and not from AI. And then I say only output the final email message and nothing else. Remember, you are John from the soft law firm, etc, etc. You will basically have to put in who you are and the law firm that you're working on over here, and you have been working in a case for that person. So what I did with this sentence was basically give it context of who it is supposed to be. So now I have to come over here and close this off, and what I need to do is to come over here and add in an AI model, because right now it simply doesn't have access to any. So I will come over here and I will search for OpenAI, and I will simply come over here and I will leave the settings exactly as they are over here. So now I will simply close this off, and what I have to do is come over here, open up my basic LLM chain, and I will come over here and turn on the required specific output format, which if you see what this does is it opens up this brand new option over here, which if we click, it gives us the option to add in an output parser. And what an output parser does is it tells the AI exactly how we want it to output the response. And you will see why this will be very useful in a bit. But for now, I will simply come over here, select structure output parser. And this is the part where everyone starts losing their mind. They're like, oh Damien, this is code, this is super technical, I don't know how to code. Well, do not worry guys, you will not have to write any code yourself. All you have to do is to basically explain to ChatGPT what you want this node to output, and it's going to give you a short snippet of code which you can just copy and come and paste over here. But I already did all this work for you, so you can simply come over here, delete this part, and simply copy this exact snippet of code, which basically tells the LLM that I want it to output me two separate schemas, one that is called subject and one that's called body. So now if I close this off and I come over here and execute this step, you will see that this just finished executing. And if I open this up, that we do over here have a separate subject and a separate schema called body, which includes the body of the email. And the reason we actually need that is because the next node we're going to add is going to be the Gmail node. So make sure you come over here and you search for Gmail, and then specifically come over here and select send a message. So now what you have to do is to come over here and select your Gmail credentials. If you do not have credentials, simply come over here and sign in with Google, and you will be able to see your credentials. Then on resource we'll leave this on message, operation will leave this on send. On the to parameter, what we need to do is to open up our Google Sheet over here, simply locate the email address schema that we have that includes the person's email, and drag and drop it over here. And then we need to fill in the subject. So all we have to do is to simply come over here, taking the subject schema and drag and drop it over here. And then over here in the email type, we can change this from HTML to text, since we're going to be sending just a simple text message. And for the message, we simply take in the body schema that we just generated and drag and drop it over here. So I think you can see why using an output parser was very handy, because we managed to successfully separate the subject from the body of the email, so we can use them inside the Gmail node. So now if I come over here and execute the step, this did send successfully, but I actually forgot to do one thing, and that's to come over here and click on Add option and click on Append N8N attribution. And then I simply need to come over here and turn this off, because if we don't do that, our email message is going to have this annoying "This message was sent by N8N text" underneath it, which is very unprofessional, and I would strongly advise you to turn it off. So now if I come and execute this again, you can see that this was sent again successfully. And if I come over in my Gmail, we can see that we have sent this message successfully over to this email address over here. So now the last thing that we have to do is to go inside a Google Sheet over here and simply update this row that is called update 1 with the message that we just sent. So we can actually take a look at the messages that we sent over in our clients, and if we see that they are not formatted correctly, we can then go and prompt the AI in order for us to improve it. So to do that, come over here and search for Google Sheets and make sure you come over here and select update row in sheet, since that's what we actually want to do. Now simply come over here and select your Google Sheets credentials. I will select mine. Operation will leave this on update row, and then over here simply select the Google Sheet you want to update. I will select mine, and then come over here and select the sheet number as well. Now what we need to do is to simply select a column to match on. I would advise you to simply do the full name, and then come over here in your LLM where you have the full name of the person and drag and drop it over here. Then we can basically delete everything that we don't want to update, which is all of these things except the update 1 parameter. And all we have to do now is simply come over here in a basic LLM chain, type in subject, for example. Let's turn this into an expression as well. We can take in the subject schema, drag and drop it over here, and then underneath that we can type in body, and then taking the body schema, drag and drop it over here as well. So now if I come over here and execute the step, you will see that this did update successfully. And if I go inside my Google Sheet, I can see the exact email message that I sent over to that specific client. Now if you don't want this to be inside this Google Sheet, you can obviously create a completely brand new Google Sheet just for that, so it doesn't mess up the viewing experience. But I'm just showing you this as an example. And now the next thing that we have to do is to basically build in the automation for when we actually have selected to send over an SMS message to that person, which is going to start over here in the if node. Because if you remember, if we actually open this up, if this was not email and it actually said SMS, for example, and we execute this step, then this would be false, and we would be able to move on with the rest of our SMS automation, which is exactly what we're going to do right now. So I will simply come over here, I will search for an OpenAI node this time, and then I will come over here and select message model. I will again select my OpenAI credentials. I will come over here and select a model. I will pick GPT-4 for this example, and then over here in the prompt, I will turn this into an expression, and I will type taking this message, and I will again come over here in my webhook, scroll all the way down, take the message that the lawyer typed and simply drag and drop it over here, and then I say and turn it into a text message. Make sure it looks like it was written by a human in a business friendly tone and is formatted as a typical text message would be. And I say this is the name of that person. I will take in the client's name and drag and drop it over here, so the AI model has access to that. And then I say mention only the person's first name. Again, since we were sending an SMS message, we don't tend to mention both the first and the last name, we just mention the first one. And then I say only output the final text message and nothing else. Remember, you're John from the soft law firm, giving it some context about who it is. So now I will simply come and click off of this here, and then I can come and execute the step. And boom, we do have a response over here, which is the text message that we're going to send over to that specific person. And as you can see, it does look very good. So now all we have to do is to simply go and send over this text message. But since N8N doesn't have a native SMS sender, what we have to do is to use a third-party API, which in our case is going to be Twilio. So make sure you come over here and you search for Twilio, and then you select send an SMS message. Now the first thing that you have to do is to come over here and select your Twilio credentials. Now if you do not have credentials, you simply have to come over here, click on create new credentials, and over here you need to fill in your account, SID number and your auth token. Then you will need to go over to twilio.com, and I will leave a link for it in the description below, and create an account. And then all you have to do is to come over here in your account dashboard, where you will find the account SID number and your auth token. So simply come over here, copy those, and come over here to N8N, simply paste them in. And after you do that, you will be able to select your Twilio credentials. Then on resource, leave this on SMS, operation, leave this on send. On the from, you need to input your Twilio phone number, which you can find again if you go over to Twilio and simply scroll down here. You can see my Twilio phone number, simply copy it, and then come back over here and paste it in. Over here in the tool, you need to input that person's phone number, which we actually have over here in our Google Sheet. So I'll simply come over here, drag and drop it over here, and I will also put in a +1, since this is a +1, since our clients are from the US. And then over here you have the option to send this message over to WhatsApp, which I actually would strongly advise you to do, since WhatsApp has an insane 95% open rate, which is way higher than a simple SMS message. And then over here in the message, you simply have to come in your LLM model, simply take in the SMS message it generated you, and drag and drop it over here. So now if I come and execute the step, you will see that I did successfully send this message over to this person, and now all we have to do is to again update the row in our Google Sheet. But we're not going to have to build this again. All we have to do is to simply come over here and copy it, paste it in, simply connect it with our workflow over here, and then open it up, and then simply come over here, delete the message that we had inside the update tab, and then simply take in the message that we just sent over to that person and drag and drop it over here. So now if we come and we execute the step, you will see that this did successfully update. And if we go back in our Google Sheet, we can see that right now inside this column, the text message that we just sent over to this person exists. Now optionally, you could also come over here and add in a respond to webhook node, simply to send a message back in your Lovable interface, telling the lawyer that it did successfully manage to send over that message. So you could come over here and change this to all incoming items, and basically come over here, copy it, and then simply come over here and paste it in, simply connect it over here, and then all you have to do is to come back over in your webhook and come over here in the respond parameter. It changes from immediately to using a respond to webhook node, because if you do not actually make this change, the respond to webhook is not going to work. And now before you come over here and you execute the respond to webhook nodes, you have to come back over to Lovable and tell it that it needs to expect to receive data from your N8N workflow. So I will say something like, make sure you expect to receive a message from N8N and you display it in the interface. And I click on send. So from now on, Lovable is going to expect to receive this message. And then every time a message is sent and the respond to webhook is executed, as you can see over here. And now if you come back over to Lovable, you will be able to see the exact message that was sent to this client over here inside the responses tab. Now if you're a lawyer or any other kind of professional and you're interested in me and my team building a system like this for you, make sure you go over in my agency's website, which you will find in the description below, so you're able to get in contact with me and contact me from there. Or if you're a person that wants to learn how he can sell automations like this, you can click the top link in the description and come and check out my school community, where I show you exactly how you can sell systems like this with multiple different methods. And I just finished creating my 100-day roadmap that promises you to get your first paying AI and automation customer, or you get all of your money back guarantee, which means that you basically have nothing to lose. So if you're interested in getting access to all of this content, along with getting access to a community of more than 150 members that are interested in AI and most importantly making money with it, make sure you click the top link in the description and you come and check out my school community, and I will be waiting for you inside. But now YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this video, in which I built a $1 million app using just Lovable and N8N. So make sure you go and watch that next, and I will see you over there.